What would happen if every human on Earth suddenly disappeared? No warning, no explanation, just gone. In a single moment, billions of people vanish, leaving behind empty cities, silent homes, and a planet that must continue without us. At first, nothing dramatic would happen. The sky would remain the same, the oceans would continue to move, and the wind would still pass through the streets of empty cities. But within minutes, the world would begin to change in subtle and unsettling ways. Airplanes flying across the skies would suddenly be left without pilots. Within hours, most of them would run out of fuel or crash into the ground or ocean. Trains would continue moving until they ran out of power or derailed. Cars would stop in the middle of highways left abandoned where they last were driven. Electricity would begin to fail within hours. Power plants require constant human supervision. Without engineers to monitor systems, grids would shut down or overload. Entire cities would fall into darkness. At night, for the first time in over a century, many regions of the Earth would become completely black. Within a day, water systems would begin to fail. Pumps that move clean water into homes would stop working. Sewage systems would overflow. Flooding could occur in some areas, while others would simply dry out. Without human control, the infrastructure that supports modern life would collapse quickly. Domestic animals would face immediate challenges. Pets locked inside homes would struggle to survive without food or water. Some would escape, while others would not. Farm animals, dependent on daily feeding, would either starve or break free. Over time, some species would adapt and return to a more natural state. In cities, nature would begin to reclaim space almost immediately. Without maintenance, plants would start growing through cracks in roads and sidewalks. Within weeks, grass and weeds would begin to cover streets and parking lots. Within months, small trees would appear in places once covered by concrete. After a year, many urban areas would look completely different. Buildings would begin to decay. Windows would break due to weather and temperature changes. Water would seep into structures, causing damage to walls and foundations. Metal would begin to rust and materials would weaken over time. Animals would begin to repopulate areas once dominated by humans. Deer, wolves, and other wildlife would enter cities. Birds would nest in abandoned buildings. Without human interference, ecosystems would rebalance in unexpected ways. Nuclear power plants would pose one of the greatest risks. Without maintenance, cooling systems would eventually fail. This could lead to meltdowns in some facilities, releasing radiation into surrounding environments. However, over time, nature has shown an ability to adapt even to such extreme conditions. After several years, the absence of humans would become even more visible. Roads would crack and collapse. Bridges would weaken and eventually fall. Skyscrapers, once symbols of human achievement, would begin to deteriorate. Without maintenance, even the strongest structures cannot last forever. After decades, entire cities would be overtaken by forests. Vines would climb over buildings. Trees would grow through rooftops. Animals would roam freely through what were once busy streets. The sounds of human life would be replaced by wind, water, and wildlife. Oceans would also change. Without pollution from industries and shipping, water quality would gradually improve. Marine life would begin to recover. Fish populations could increase dramatically. Coral reefs, given enough time, might begin to heal. Climate change would slow down significantly. Without factories, vehicles, and emissions, the atmosphere would gradually stabilize. However, the effects of past human activity would still remain for many years. Satellites orbiting Earth would eventually fall out of the sky. Without adjustments and maintenance, their orbits would decay. Some would burn up in the atmosphere, while others might crash back to the surface. After hundreds of years, very little evidence of human civilization would remain. Stone structures might survive the longest, but most modern buildings would collapse. Roads would disappear under layers of soil and vegetation. After thousands of years, the Earth would look almost as if humans had never existed. Forests would cover former cities. Wildlife would dominate the landscape. The only remaining traces might be subtle: changes in soil, scattered artifacts, and the long-term impact of materials like plastic. Yet the most fascinating part of this scenario is not just what would happen to the world, but what it reveals about our place in it. Human civilization, despite its complexity and power, is deeply dependent on constant maintenance and control. Without us, the systems we built begin to fall apart almost immediately. At the same time, nature demonstrates an incredible ability to recover and adapt. Life continues, ecosystems rebuild, and balance slowly returns. This raises an important question. Are we truly in control of the planet? Or are we simply a temporary part of a much larger system? The idea of humanity disappearing may seem like science fiction, but it highlights the delicate balance between human progress and the natural world. Every city, every road, every piece of technology requires constant attention. Without it, even the greatest achievements of humanity fade over time. And perhaps that is the most powerful reminder of all. The world does not belong to us. We are only passing through.